Hello guys, welcome to the next episode. Today we are talking about big SUV, but with a sporty flavor, the Porsche Cayenne 2nd Gen. I will show you how it drives, how it looks, what to look for if you want to buy one, and about reliability, of course. Let's get going. Let's start with a little overview. The Cayenne 2nd generation was introduced in 2010. It replaced the infamous first generation that people hated, but right now it comes back as a youngtimer classic car. Anyway, in 2017, the 2nd gen was replaced with a new current one that was recently facelifted. This one was lifted in 2014. In my opinion, it's a little bit more square at front. I don't like it. I prefer the first one, as there wasn't any significant changes in the mechanical department, let's say. So you can just choose which one you prefer or go for a newer model, hoping that it will be more reliable. We'll talk about it. Before we dive deeper into general look of the car, we can say that it's much more sleek, and everybody was sure that it looks much better than the first generation, which in my opinion had its character, but for sure this one is much more sleek, much more modern. Even so, that for some people that are not so into the Porsche, it's hard to judge if it's a current one or it's the previous one. You know how it works. So the general design of this car is really nice, almost loved by everybody. In the Cayenne Turbo of this generation, Porsche introduced the new lighting design with 4 LED dots. We know it right now, but it was presented first time the Turbo of this generation, and it lasts till today. It was only available on turbos in this period. It was a hallmark of the top range version, Turbo and Turbo S. I wanted to tell you also about the wheels of the Cayenne. Here you can see Turbo 2 wheel, 21 inches. And in this generation, if you took 21 inches, you had to also get the wheel arch extension, as the wheel would go out from the body, from the line of the body, which is not legal, at least in Europe. It was also the case in previous generation. So options, options and options, as always in Porsche. And as we are here, I also would like to tell you a few words about the brakes. Brakes are quite good. Of course, as it's in turbo, we've got the biggest one available. Of course, these are steel brakes. So if you want more stopping power, especially more durability, you will need to go for carbon ceramic brakes. And that's what I prefer in this car. Unluckily, I got the steel ones. But as you push on the mountain roads, you will see that it's not working as good as it should. If you want something more about the carbon ceramic brakes, check out my review of my Quadrifoglio. There you will see my take on this issue. A few words about the side profile of the car. It's quite generic, as in all SUVs. But what's worth mentioning, my car has some Porsche equipment parts. For example, this side step. It's made of aluminium, it's very rigid. I've got some other trim pieces like rear and front bumper downsides made of aluminium. It's also a nice touch. You know, the side look of the car, generic, as I said, nothing interesting. It's even more generic, in my opinion, that in the first generation, which had the rear arch a little bit designed like it was in 911. Here it's gone. Maybe it's a good way as companies stopped to push design of those SUVs to look like a sport car, as it won't work, as we all know. But as they went into their own way, I think it lost a little bit of the character. But once again, it's much more smoother, much more composed than what we saw in the first gen, which was a little bit crazy. Then the third generation also goes with the trend of the second one. Some may even confuse it, it's second or a third gen, if they don't look at the rear, where we are now going. Let's move to the rear of the car. As you can see, it's much better design than the previous generation, which was a little bit awkward also at the rear. Here we've got smooth lines, a little bit curves here and there. But what is also worth to mention, we've got LED lights, full LED lights here since the beginning of the production, and also the lights are the place where everybody can easily say it's second or third gen, as the newer car. It's a light bar that goes across the whole rear of the car. Here, the classic lights with LED. But as we compare generations, for me, the big drawback is that you no longer can open the rear glass. It was very useful, especially that I had the first generation before the facelift with a spare wheel. So it was really nice to have a possibility to open the boot with only a glass. Here it's no longer available, but you know, if you've got your boot packed fully, it's much easier to just open a window and throw something in without opening the whole gate, which, by the way, of course, is electric, it takes time and so on. And here you have a heart of a Cayenne Turbo 2011. It's 4.8 liter twin turbo V8 with 500 horsepower and 700 Newton meters. It's enough for any car, even with this size. A lot of power, a lot of grunt. It gets moving very good. Of course, it's got its issues. The most important one are the bolts near the timing chains where the VVTi valves are located. Sometimes they were failing without any warning, so you had to prepare for a big price to repair your engine. But if you change them from the aluminum ones to the steel ones, it's very good drivetrain. It's much revised compared to the previous ones using the first generation, so you can count that it will be a little bit more reliable. But even reliable engine doesn't mean low costs of maintenance in Porsche, because it does not exist in this company. You have to remember it when you will be looking for a car for you. Here you can see the exhaust quad pipes. Everything is real, like in the Porsche should be. You can see also a Porsche equipment strip down here. So let's take a listen to the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Let's move to the interior of the second gen. It's complete makeover, also like from the outside. It looks great. It's got great materials. It's got a lot of tech and a lot of physical buttons still. I really like them. Some say it's too much, but if you are using the car, you can get comfortable with it, so it's not a problem. It's much easier than look for everything on the screen in the third gen. As I was using it, I think this one is the perfect combo. First generation, quality was there, but it wasn't on as high level as here. And also the design, it was nice, but here you've got everything. It's enough modern to make you comfortable, but also not so modern that you have to use only the screen to do the single easy thing. Here you've got special buttons for almost everything. So as I told you, if you get comfortable with it, you can drive the car, don't look, and you will know exactly where to press to do what you want to do. Also, as we cover the interior, it's also worth to mention that the car has great equipment. You can find the car with almost everything that you can get in modern version. Maybe besides some assistance, but for example, mine has adaptive cruise control, has got blind spot monitoring, of course, keyless access, with a nicely done starting of the car that you have a key to twist. So it's great. You don't have simple button like you've got in nowadays new facelifted third generation, which for me as a Porsche guy, it's ridiculous. Why would you get rid of this key? It's great to turn it when you are turning on the Porsche. You are turning on the Porsche, not, for example, a simple Toyota Prius. Now about the quality. As you can imagine, in almost all Porsche models, it's really great, but second gen is especially good as the quality is really great. Stitched leather everywhere. Of course, if you pay for it, but it's almost on the entire dashboard, even here down, everything is made of leather. Here the cab is also filled with leather. It looks great. This particular model has a finish in aluminium, brushed one, really cold metal. You can also find cars with wood or carbon fiber. Carbon fiber, of course, also very nice. But the wood, in my opinion, doesn't go well with Porsche pedigree. But, of course, take what you want. You will be pleased. Also, the headliner here in turbo, made out of Alcantara. It's standard. And everything looks so nice, even after so many years. It's really great. Welcome from the back of a Porsche Cayenne 958, which is internal code for Porsche Cayenne 2nd Gen. Okay, let's talk about it. Generally, I don't cover rear seats or a boot because it's not so important in sporty nice cars. But here, as it is an SUV, and it's a big advantage over the first gen Cayenne, which was a huge car from the outside, but inside, especially in the rear, it was a little bit cramped. The use of space wasn't excellent there, but here it's completely different story. As you can see, a lot of knee room, a lot of headroom, very good bolstered seats also at the rear. If the car that you are looking for has got sporty seat in front, also the rear bench is heavy bolstered, so it's great for cornering, also for long cruises. You can go through the whole Europe with 4 people without any problems. I say 4 people because if you have a sporty seat, the middle one isn't useful anyway. As the Porsche Cayenne is not only a fast car, but also a useful one, let's talk about the boot. it's big enough for any needs. But I wanted to show you just in one quirk. Maybe you will find it on other cars, but for me it's very important here. It's this aluminum bar, which is high quality as everything in this car. You know, the carpets, everything feels so good. But going back to the bar, as you can see, you can slide it on the rails, so you can keep in place everything that you have in boot. It's very important if you've got a large boot and a fast car. As probably you can imagine, everything might be rotten, shaking everywhere here, and this prevents it. It's really, really nice to have in a car like this. Okay, let's take the Cayenne Turbo for a little spin. I will tell you something from the owner point of view. So let's get going. The Cayenne Turbo. I always had a soft spot for those cars. I had 4 Cayennes from the first generation to the last one, and the second generation Turbo is the one that I kept for longer. I will tell you why, of course, but first things first. Why I review this car? It may not be a typical collector's car. There are a lot of Cayennes, even Turbo is not so rare. There is a lot of those. But I thought I will tell you a little bit about it because it's, in my opinion, perfect all-rounder. It's great for longer cruises, it's great for any weather, any conditions. You can pack a lot of stuff in it. So, of course, I suppose you've got other weekend cars, sporty ones, maybe classic and so on. But if you want a perfect combination of performance, practicality, comfort, and some thrills during using, of course, we've got to remember it's heavy SUV. So if I am telling you that it feels sporty, it only feels sporty compared to other big SUVs. There is no way, and nobody will tell you that this car drives like 911, even from today's times, or a Boxster, or any small car. For example, the smart Roadster I own. I will give you a link in the description if you want to see what I'm talking about. But in those cars, you won't take 4 people with a lot of baggages for a vacation. Of course, you know I've got Quadrifoglio, yeah, but using Quadrifoglio in winter, especially in my climate conditions, is not a good idea. It may end up very bad. So that's why I also need a car with 4-wheel drive. I also own a few Subarus. These are nice cars, but the interior, no matter about which one we are talking, is crappy. It's plastic and it's almost, maybe not falling apart, but it's, you know, made of trash bin, to be honest. I love those cars. They are perfect, especially Imprezas, those older ones. Drives great, but it's not a car for everyday use, especially today. But coming back to the Cayenne second generation, it's got some benefits. The same those that you will find in the newer model, that it's quite light, especially if you compare it to the first gen, which I loved because it gave you possibility to go on the track, because it was quite competing, especially in turbo trim, but also off-road. This one doesn't, as it lacks some off-road features. You could get it as an option, but it was very rare. So basically, every Cayenne first generation is very, very capable off-roader, which you cannot tell about this one. But this one has other advantage. it weighs about 300 kilo less. It's a lot, even if we are talking about over 2-ton vehicles. You can feel it immediately. And continuing about the suspension, it's important, in my opinion, as owner of a few Cayennes, to have air suspension. You may think that it's much more complicated, and it's a problematic thing. No. Nowadays, it's quite cheap to change almost at the same level as high quality normal suspension parts, but this gives you two advantages. First one, you can make it comfortable or sporty, and you feel it. It's not maybe the biggest change you will feel ever in the car, but for sure, especially if you have bigger wheels, you will feel the difference, and it's very important if you want to daily drive this car. The second one is you can rise the car or lower it. It also lowers itself at higher speeds, so it also enhances the cornering abilities, the stability of the car. So don't buy a Cayenne without air suspension, for sure. Now about the drivetrain. Here we've got turbo with 500 horsepower and 8-speed Tiptronic transmission, which may not be as fast as PDK, but it's very, very smooth. It gives the car very good economy, especially for size and power. If you drive it very delicate, right now I am doing 45 kilometers per hour on the 5th gear. So imagine, the revs are very low. Of course, if you put it in sport, it will have much, much higher revs. And the economy is pretty good. I average about 50-60 liters in town, so I think it's reasonable. Of course, you can get a little bit less, I think, but you can get also very, very high. This car is very sensitive for the way you are driving. But you've got the power, you've got the grunt, you press, and it goes like a rocket ship. And you don't even have to press it so much, as it is really big engine with turbos that don't have so big lag that was present in the older Cayennes. So you just on the half throttle, you are doing really, really good progress. It's really, really, really nice setup. The gearbox cooperates with engine perfectly. The four-wheel drives gives you a lot of confidence, even on the start. You don't have to worry about the traction, so it's really win-win situation. So now a few words about general reliability, but you cannot only tell about this car telling that it's not breaking down, because it's not breaking down. Maybe it's not bulletproof car, especially as the engine and the transfer case have some issues. You have to check them properly before you buy this car. But the maintenance of this car is also an issue. It may not be that something breaks, but you anyway have to spend a lot of money, especially if you want to service the car in a Porsche specialist or a Porsche service, because the labor is very expensive. As far as I know, right now it's more expensive than in Ferrari and Maserati. So you can imagine the costs, and that's how you should judge this car. Because right now the prices are very good. You can buy a nice car for about 25,000 euros up to 50. But you've got to remember, buying this car is one thing, maintaining it is the second. So you have to also ask yourself if you are ready to spend, for example, 5,000 euro for maintenance for a big service. That's the cost I paid. for a big service that was recently done to this car, and it was nothing broken. It was simply changing the oil in the transmission and transfer cases, of course changing oil in the engine itself, the spark plugs, the brake fluid, and that's it. That's the cost of maintaining the current Porsches and doing the big service. Of course, it happens only per every 120 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers. So you know it won't happen every time. But you can at least imagine the pricing. Maybe you can go to an authorized service, then you will pay maybe 2.5, something like that. But my car still is on the Porsche warranty, so I have no choice. Anyway, it's a great all-rounder, perfect car. Also, if you have to have only one car to do it all, to do the weekend jobs, to do everyday living, vacation, dealing with snow, with bad conditions, it will do everything you want it to, and it gives you 4.7 seconds to 100 and 280 kilometers per hour top speed, so you don't need any more than this. And that's how the turbo drives. It's perfect all-rounder, only if you can afford to maintain it. So if you can take it, it will give you thrills for everyday drive, no matter what you use as a weekend car. It can take your family for vacation. It will do very good at snow and any other conditions. Hope you liked my review. If you did, give me a like, subscribe, and wait for more content. Bye.